Hi, I'm Ken Smith, Director of Health Products with Assurity, and I want to welcome you to this webinar today. I was talking with a friend last week who's been a life producer and done mutual funds and just started having success selling critical illness insurance. And talking about the webinar, he said, Ken, what you really need to do is take the blindfold off and have everyone see the opportunity and see how easy it is to sell critical illness insurance, just like you've done for me. Now, there's two thoughts. I'm going to ask two things of you going into this. Number one, stop multitasking. I want you to focus on this webinar, and I guarantee the return you get will be amazing. The second thing is, at the end of this, there's going to be an evaluation form that comes up. And what I'd like you to do is take a minute and put down the best sales idea that you learned listening to Keith and I today. If you're in an NMO, MGA, wholesaler, basically take one idea that you feel like you can share with agents in the next week. And if you're an agent or advisor, pick one sales idea that you can take out and share with your clients within the next week. Today, I am real excited to introduce my co-presenter. Keith Leech and I met in January of 2004 at the World Critical Illness Conference in Victoria, British Columbia. Immediately after meeting Keith, I had him speak at one of the U.S. Critical Illness conferences, and over the years, he's been a regular speaker there. And Keith and I have co-presented many times in the last 8 years. Keith is the premier sales trainer when it comes to critical illness protection in Canada. He's developed the Critical Steps sales program that's being used by a number of companies there. But Keith, I have to say, has a really unique background, and I'm going to ask Keith to kind of share some of that unique background. So Keith, take it away.
Thanks, Ken. Great to be here today. It's interesting. I think every single group you mentioned, I've been with respect to critical illness. I've wholesaled the product. I was a principal in a large BGA in Canada where we distributed the product. And for the last 8 years, I've been working as an advisor, dealing directly with clients and really focusing on CI sales in my own practice by partnering with agents of different types, different markets, different product mixes, and helping them through joint work sell CI. So a lot of what we're really talking about, a lot of what went into the Critical Steps program, a lot of what's gone into all the training I've done is really looking at, quite frankly, a lot of the early mistakes the industry and I made as a wholesaler, BGA principal, certainly as an advisor, and then also the research I've done in talking to the people who are actually getting CI sold and packaging it up for other advisors, BGA principals, and wholesalers and saying, here's how this stuff is actually getting done. Here are the field-tested ways that we're having success with the product. So my goal today is really to change some perceptions, if you will, on CI. And it's interesting, and just by way of levity to kind of get things started and make sure people are paying attention, Ken, I think there's some misperceptions when it comes to CI, and I know there's just misperceptions, if you will, as to the insurance industry. For example, I think most of my friends think that this is pretty much my life in the insurance industry, just sitting around enjoying the fruits of my labor. My mom, however, thinks that this is my day-to-day life in the insurance industry. That's me coaching and training people and clients. Unfortunately, there's a subset of people who I choose not to do business with who think this is my world as an advisor day by day, this guy. My customers, unfortunately, at times think this could be my world as they see their premium dollars go my way. Unfortunately, last week and the week before, this kind of felt like my life, and advisors and wholesalers and BJ principals probably sometimes feel like this, that we're just really herding cats. That's the challenges we face. And in reality, this week's been a tricky one. This has been my week in the insurance industry. So much like our industry, there's a lot of perceptions. I think when it comes to CI, I commend the people on the phone and watching this webinar, because that means you've got enough interest to be showing up. There's so many who aren't even looking at CI and are missing just a massive massive opportunity. Again, my history with the product, I've wholesaled the product, run a large BGA in Western Canada where we represented numerous companies with respect to CI. And then for the last 8 years, I've been dealing with clients directly, and the ideas and concepts that we developed on how to sell CI, position CI, have really, really matured when I've had to actually sit with clients and talk about this product direct. You learn sort of what the client and consumer hurdles are to CI and how to reposition the product that it actually makes sense to them, for them and their families. Very recently, I've had a number of the big companies in Canada, including Manulife, Great West Life, Canada Life, London Life, that family of companies, asked me to put together programs for them, not on how their product is better, because there's a lot of that out there, but really on how advisors are opening critical illness conversations, overcoming client objections, and making people understand the value of critical illness. So that's been real exciting for me, because I know firsthand from meeting with clients, and I know firsthand from meeting with agents when I was a BGA principal and a wholesaler, clients and advisors, I think, in general right now in North America are thinking, boy, there's a lot of insurance products already. And now you throw this new one, critical illness, on my plate. As an advisor, how do I fit it into my practice? And as a consumer, how do I understand why this one's more important than all the other ones I'm being shown by you, my advisor, and everybody else? And I think fundamentally, what the top CI advisors on both sides of the border are doing better than everybody else is they're helping their clients understand why critical illness, the product line, not the particular one you represent, but why CI, the product line in general. Why is that so important today when 2 generations ago apparently it wasn't even important enough to have available as a product? And I'm going to speak to that. The reason why we have CI now, it's not because of healthcare reform. In Canada, it's not because of waiting lists and the desire for Canadians to jump the queue and get down to Seattle or Detroit for treatment. We've got to double back. Dr. Marius Barnard invented this product, critical illness, in the early 80s. I don't think Marius Barnard, sitting in South Africa, said, I'm going to design a product here in 1983 that in 2012, because of healthcare reform, it's going to be a big success in the U.S. I don't think Dr. Barnard in the early 80s said, I need to design a product in South Africa that'll take off like gangbusters in the 2000s in Canada because they want to jump the queue and go for treatment in the States. So why did he invent it? And we have got to tell this story. Advisors who are having huge success selling CI tell this story, and they tell it well. There's 2 professions at play when it comes to CI. The medical profession and our profession, the insurance profession. And sometimes advisors make the mistake of saying the medical profession is involved because of wait lists, deductibles, copays, costs for treatment. That's not the story at all. The story is this. The medical profession, because of good medicine, earlier diagnosis, better treatment options, created the reason for critical illness, and they also created the solution. The reality is Dr. Barnard tells the story, and I get a giggle every time I hear him say it. Before his procedure, open heart surgery, that person on the table would have died, and the life insurance professional would have showed up with the money. Unfortunately, that client survives. As he jokes, we show him the bill, another heart attack, repeat customer. But the game has changed. Those numbers on your screen, 4, 34, 58, 56, 30, and 100, are not the numbers to a winning lottery ticket. They're actually the numbers to a bad luck lottery. This is the story of a client of mine who claimed on CI. But the way that they claimed and the way that they did not use your life insurance will help explain to you, and hopefully you can use this story to explain to your clients why this product's so important today, but a generation or 2 ago we didn't need it. 4 years ago, I sold a 34-year-old some critical illness. Super fit, super healthy. 58 days ago, that now 38-year-old client was walking on a treadmill, not running, at the start of their workout. 56 days ago, that healthy 38-year-old previously woke up from an induced coma. 30 days later, received a check for $100,000 from their critical illness plan. The fact that they collected isn't the story. The story is how they survived and how different it is today versus a generation ago. The first thing that happened when this client had cardiac arrest while walking on that treadmill, 12 cell phones came out in the gym where he was working out. 911 calls were made that would not have been made 2 generations ago pre-cell phones and 911. The paramedics got there quicker, which prevented a death claim. The person walking on the treadmill next to him ran to the back of the gym, grabbed the defibrillator paddles that would not have been in that gym 5 years ago, let alone a generation ago, applied the paddles, prevented a death claim, no life insurance money showing up. The paramedics who showed up quickly were able to intentionally induce a coma in my client, and they intentionally, and this sounds like science fiction, cooled my client's body so that when the client would come back from the coma, he wouldn't come back too quickly and wouldn't have organ damage and risk permanent damage or perhaps death. Here's the point. A generation ago, without the cell phones, we're looking at a death claim. Without the defibrillator paddles, we're looking at a death claim. This particular client, no death claim, and here's the takeaway, we never even submitted disability claim forms for this client. The game has changed. That which used to kill, you're more likely to survive, but your world still turned on its ear. Right after that, it's interesting, just this July, Brett McLean, NHL hockey player, 23 years of age, had almost the exact same thing happen to him as happened to my client. This guy will never go back to playing in the AHL, but a generation or two ago, it would have been a death claim on the ice playing pickup league hockey. The game has changed dramatically. Albert Einstein, it's amazing, when he was lecturing a few years ago back in his day, one of his teaching assistants ran in and said, Albert, hold on a second, there's been a huge problem with the exams. The exams we just handed out are the exact same as last year's exams. And Einstein said, no problem. All the answers are different. And here's the story. The game has changed. The question of what's the right insurance product for cancer, heart attack, or stroke was asked 2 generations ago, and we ask the same question today, but the answer is different. In your parents' generation, and certainly your grandparents, the right product from our industry for cancer, heart attack, and stroke was life insurance. The right product today, good news, is you still have to hold your life insurance, but you're less likely to collect on the first incidence, is today we need critical illness and life insurance. The game has changed.
And a couple questions that I really want everyone to think about is, what percentage of term policies do you think result in a death claim? The correct answer is 2 to 3%. What percentage of mortgage foreclosures in the U.S. are due to death? 3%. What percentage of mortgage foreclosures are due to a serious illness? The answer is 48%. Your prospects, your clients, are 16 times more likely to face mortgage foreclosure because of a critical illness than premature death. What I want you to think about today is that life insurance, yes, you still need life insurance, but life insurance by itself is no longer enough. And one of the examples that Keith and I discussed the other day about this is, ask your client the question, do you buy fire insurance or do you buy a comprehensive homeowner's policy? And if you ask them that question, they're going to tell you they have the comprehensive homeowner's policy. And ask them why. And they're going to tell you because the fire insurance only covers one thing, while the homeowner's policy covers multiple things. Well, guess what? It's the same way today with critical illness and life insurance. You need both critical illness and you need life insurance protection. It's like buying a homeowner's policy versus fire insurance only. This is a statistic that really amazed me when I first saw this. 25% of the working population in England owns a critical illness policy. And when I usually ask the question, why do you think those individuals purchase critical illness insurance, most people tell me it's because of their national health care. and I say wrong. That's a misconception that a lot of people have. If you stop and look at it, 60 to 65% of critical illness sales in England are related to mortgage protection. And if you stop and think about it, it just makes so much sense. What's more likely to happen while you're paying on that mortgage? Premature death or critical illness? Depending on the age, an individual is 3 or 4 times more likely to suffer critical illness than they are to die while they're paying on that mortgage. So, how would you open up a discussion about critical illness in the mortgage market? All you have to do is ask one simple question. And that question is, do you have the new kind of mortgage insurance or the old kind of mortgage insurance? And the response you're going to get is, I probably have the old kind. Or, Ken, what's the difference between the two? Well, the old kind only pays your mortgage off if you die. The new kind pays your mortgage off if you die. But in addition, if you're diagnosed with cancer, have a heart attack or stroke, it'll take care of your mortgage payments for 2 years or 5 years. And believe it or not, the cost for this is less than a cup of coffee a day. Now, one condition I will make with the cost, if it's a young person, it's a convenience store cup of coffee. If it's someone my age who's a tobacco user, it's a giant Frappuccino at Starbucks. And then I have asked this question of groups through the years. Would it reduce your stress if you're diagnosed with cancer and you know that your mortgage will be paid for the next 2 years? I've asked that to thousands of people over the last 12 years. And guess what? I have never had anyone answer no. Critical illness insurance does one thing, and that's when an individual suffers a critical illness, it's there to reduce the financial stress so they can focus on the most important thing, and that's recovery.
Absolutely, Ken. And it's amazing as I look at people who sell other things, cars, cell phones, boats, and they've got some great salespeople in that industry. We've got the best salespeople in the world. We sell a product, life insurance, to people that probably, because of underwriting, are the least likely to use the product. And we sell it to people who never want to use the product. And if the product does get used, everybody but the client who buys benefits but them. We've got the greatest salespeople. But here's my takeaway. We sell life insurance, especially to young people. If you can make that sale, we can pivot very easily to a CI sale. If you ask your client who's bought life insurance from you or someone else in the past why they own it, or if they're buying in the meeting you're in with them, ask them why they're buying, most people, especially young people, can't really articulate why. But if we follow up and say, why did you buy this life insurance? They go, well, just I kind of thought I maybe had to have it. You go, well, did you buy it because you think the event, death, is about to happen? And they usually go, no, like I'm healthy. I had to be healthy to get the coverage. If you go, did you buy it because you want the event to happen? They go, well, definitely not. And I think we then say to these clients, and they all nod their head and they agree, I go, here's what I think's going on. I think you own this coverage. Not because you think it's going to happen or because you want it to happen. I think you go, in the off chance it did happen, it would be very irresponsible of me not to own this, and it would be burdensome to my family if I didn't take this step. And every client I've ever said those words to goes, you know what, that's exactly why I bought that. But then I pivot to, like Ken said, I go, well, if that's a good decision, and it is, what's more likely in the next 10 to 20 years? That you become an angel prematurely, hashtag use your life insurance, or get diagnosed with a major illness and have to battle through it while you recover and don't use your insurance. And every consumer goes the second one by a wide margin. So here's the point. Everybody who owns life insurance that you've sold, everybody who's contemplating life insurance, we've got to commend them on that decision, but get them to really understand that they bought it because they don't want to be burdensome to their family. What's crazy is you have cancer, heart attack, or stroke, you die, you've done well by your family. You have cancer, heart attack, or stroke and you don't want to do well by your family. It just doesn't make sense. If you have disability clients, what's really important is to point out to them that their perfect plan they have through their work, the great plan that you sold them a year ago, will not and cannot replace 100% of their income. And we know why. It's because, unfortunately, the more of someone's income that's covered with disability, the more claims there are for starters, and the longer those claims go. For that reason, we typically can only cover, 75%, whatever the number is, of someone's after-tax typical income. But here's the takeaway. I think we need to be saying to our clients who have great disability coverage, it has always frustrated me that because other dishonest people will abuse a claims process for disability, that my honest clients still have to take a pay cut when it comes to their disability benefits. Here's my takeaway. If they throw out their back, they have to take a pay cut. I can't help them. If they're diagnosed with cancer, heart attack, or stroke, I think, and you know what? Every client thinks something extra should happen. You know what? You're used to making $5,000 a month after tax. You throw out your back, it goes to $4,000. I'm okay with that. You have cancer, heart attack, or stroke, it doesn't seem right that your family takes a pay cut, and that's where we can supplement with CI for the big stuff. It's been said that humans are the only species that can actually think of something that isn't happening right in front of them and have an image of their mind planted there by themselves or someone else. Here's what I mean when it comes to CI. We have got to tell the story of what we mean a critical illness is and what the money can be used for. This is my takeaway. You go to talk to your client about life insurance or disability insurance, a client who has never had a meeting with you before. Before you open your mouth, that client already knows, just by being around people, what needs to happen to trigger a life insurance claim. You need to die. The client also probably knows, I bet you I know what disability does. It pays me when I can't work. The clients also know when you go to sell them life insurance what the money is probably used for, because they can put it together and go, if I were to pass away, I'm probably not going to be able to go to work and provide for my family. That must be what the money is used for. So when it comes to a client's awareness of the event that triggers the money to be paid and what the money can be used for, CI is at a huge deficit when it comes to life or disability products. We have got to be able to put the image that we want into the client's mind when we say, this is what critical illness is, and this is what the money can be used for. Humor me for a moment. Close your eyes and imagine that Ken and I offer to take you guys on a beautiful holiday to a nice beach. You're all excited, and then I say, apologies, the beach I'm talking about, keep your eyes closed, is jam-packed. Everywhere you go to put your towel, there's no room. The beach isn't that sandy. It's not that great. Can you see that beach in your mind that's now on your screen? Now close your eyes again. Imagine I say, you know what? Ken and I really like you guys. Forget that beach. You've got a private beach. There's the ocean, some white sand, and all there is 2 palm trees, and Ken and I have put a hammock right in between those 2 palm trees. Think of that beach in your mind. Does it look like that? Here's the point. They're both beaches. If I then said to a client, hey, would you like to go to the beach? If they're thinking of the crowded beach, they're saying, Keith, I don't want to go. If they're thinking of this beach, they're saying, sign me up, I'll pay whatever it takes. Here's what I'm saying. When it comes to life insurance, we don't need to explain what we mean by death. We don't need to explain by you're not coming back, here's the money. We say the words, do you want critical illness? And the client goes, I have no idea what that is, and I don't know what the money will be used for. And we have got to paint the picture. And part of the problem when it comes to critical illness is the name, if you think it through. Critical illness. The client will often default to, I'm in critical condition and I'm not getting better. And people will often buy a product more if it's actually sold to them as, if a serious event happens, we can help you through a short period of time where you need help. That's often easier to say yes to than, I'm in critical condition, needing round-the-clock care. Takeaways we want to get to in your meetings. Always want to talk about what the funds do for clients. It will give them options, control, choice, independence, and as Ken mentioned earlier, it will reduce stress. Cash does not make cancer better, but boy, it can reduce stress and give people options at a time when their world is absolutely 100% turned on its ear.
I want to share 4 key questions that are probably, I want to say they do very effectively communicate the need for critical illness protection. And the interesting thing with these questions is This is not just something that works in the United States. These 4 questions work in every country where critical illness is sold. First question, who do you know who's been diagnosed with cancer, had a heart attack, or stroke? Everyone knows someone that's been affected by it. I've asked this question with groups of 450 to 500 people, and I ask them to sit down. Everyone sits down, and I ask if they know someone. The second thing is, was it expected? No one expects to have cancer, a heart attack, or stroke. And the reason this question is so valuable is because what it does is it really helps take away the objection that it can't happen to me. Because you get further down in the interview, and the individual says, I don't think it'll happen to me. You're going to say, well, what about your teammate over there, your coworker? Did they think it was going to happen to them? And then the third question is, was it tough emotionally or financially for them, their family, or their business? And I have to give Keith credit for this, that emotional part added to this question. Because one of the things that does happen is if there's money from a critical illness plan, what it really does is it reduces the financial stress. But you can't take away that emotional stress completely, but that money helps reduce the emotional stress. And then lastly, if someone came in and said, hey, here's a big pile of cash, use it however you think is best, would that have helped? And that shows how the benefits are paid with the plan. So remember those 4 questions. I also want to remind everyone that, we feel like we have really been the innovator with preferred underwriting. We are using preferred underwriting from 14 different life carriers. And what that says is if someone qualifies for preferred underwriting within 6 months after the exam's done, basically all they have to do is fill 3 parts of the application out. The application, send it in, send the exam, and send a schedule page. And in 98% of the cases, we're going to issue a critical illness policy between $50,000 and $100,000. And there's a list of the companies that are approved. We'll accept their preferred underwriting.
That's and Ken, just to jump in here too, because I think the key with this program, because it's a biggie when you've got that much representation across that many companies, is if you can, even if you're not trying hard to sell the CI when you're writing the life, because the life might be your first priority, the earlier they can hear about the CI potential opportunity, the better. So even if during your life meeting with any of the companies on the screen, you mention CI, the concept, even if you don't really push for the sale, if they do get that preferred underwriting decision and then you can bring up CI for the second time with a simplified process, your chances, in my mind, of actually moving that process forward significantly better than if you just deal with the life, you get this offer, and then you go to the client to say, oh, I've got something new we've never spoken about. They're going, well, where's this coming from? So just, again, if you're in the life meeting, pre-position the concept of CI, and then deliver the good news later, hopefully when you've got a preferred underwriting decision.
And then I'll mention, this is the last day, but if you complete a critical illness questionnaire, we are awarding, someone will be winning, there'll be 5 winners of Dr. Bernard's Defining Moments with autograph. And even if you get this after the end of October, go out and fill the quiz out, and good chance to test your critical illness knowledge. Keith, I mentioned earlier the Critical Steps training program that you developed in Canada. How has that helped, first of all, like IMOs, MGAs, how's that helped them to develop critical illness business?
Sure. Thanks, Ken. A couple things. One, I would say that it was probably the most comprehensive, independent, and that's key, independent sales-focused material that would help IMOs, BGAs, whatever terminology we choose to use. It was a way for those organizations to go to their agents and advisors and say, we're going to give you some field-tested scripting, sales language, and tools based on your markets, and we cover off all the markets, that will help you actually have a conversation that can lead to a sale. And we'll let the chips fall where they may as to which carrier gets the business, because we just want to help those people write business. The other area where we've seen huge benefits beyond just sales, because sales is what we're all in this business for, but from an expense management of a IMO, the carrier level, certainly BGA, we've been able to see huge strides in increasing sales with these great tools. But because we've actually built in not just scripting and sales language we can look at paper-based, but we've built in a video training whereby some of the more remote advisors who may not get the attention that they otherwise would have in the past, or there would be huge expense to go fly, drive, meet, or run large seminars to talk about CI, we've been able to keep those costs down by actually getting the tools into their offices, right onto their computer, where they can watch a video on dealing with a certain objection or opening up a certain market. So we've seen sort of a dual thing of increased sales, good, lowering of sort of expense and cost, especially getting to remote advisors. So we've seen sort of a double win there, Ken. It's been really great.
And I am excited because I've talked with Manulife. How long has Manulife been using the program up in Canada?
Oh gosh, it's been 5 years.
5 years. Have had a number of discussions with Manulife, and they are and have been extremely excited about the results. And here's the big news. I'll share with you, Assurity has purchased the program, and we will be implementing it in 2013, beginning early in 2013. And if you have an interest in the program, send me an email and let me know, and we can talk about it. Before we close, I want to share the story of the pig and the chicken that were walking down the street. They were going down the street, and they saw a restaurant with a sign outside that said, ham and eggs for $3.99. The chicken said, "That's great." And the pig said, "Whoa, I'm not so sure about this." And the chicken said, "Well, what's your hesitation?" And the pig said, "For you, it's just a contribution. For me, it's a total commitment." And what I want you to think about today is there's a tremendous opportunity, a tremendous need with critical illness. I'm going to ask you, and this is probably the only time anyone's ever going to tell you to be like the pig, but think about it and make the commitment, because I can say it, Keith can say it, is the fact that a small commitment in learning critical illness protection will return huge dividends for you financially, and it really does make a difference for your clients. Now, I want you to remember there's going to be a registration page when we finish here. I want you to take a minute and fill it out with the best sales idea that you've picked up today. So, Keith, it's always a pleasure. I really appreciate working with you. You're great to bounce ideas off of. Any questions, contact me. It's ksmith@assurity.com. Thank you, and until next time, have fun.